Hi, and welcome to Essex. I don't know how many of us are Essex people, but I'm feeling at home here. It's a good vibe. And I suppose I'm here to talk, and it was interesting just quickly what Matt was saying about Trust Links, about it's not just finding a location and building a building. What Matt does and what Trust Links do is they make sure that works in the long term. And that is the conversation that's never really had in politics and policy, because it's always short term. So I'm here definitely to talk about the honest conversation about how you make things work and last, and stop lying about something being sustainable when it's not looked after. So this is an example of what I like in a lot of ways. This is a wall at our house or our garden. This is made from Essex stone. We don't have any natural stone in Essex, do we? This is our stone, demolition waste. And this was built by a dry stone waller from Devon, because we don't have too many dry stone wallers in Essex for that reason, that we don't appreciate our natural stone, do we, in Essex? And what I love about this is it's valuing waste, number one. So this is demolition waste from local houses. Number two, the material cost 30 quid. The labour was £1,400. And at the moment, we usually are the other way around. We spend all our money on materials and infrastructure, and then we try and suck all the joy out of everything by not employing enough people and not paying anyone to maintain and do anything. That's what we do. So we should keep that in mind. So Essex. It's true. And as I've forgotten the lady's name now from the Cats, and Christine said, we are the driving force, this area of Essex. Financially, we're an active, energetic lot, aren't we, down here? There's a lot of vans flying around with very, very hardworking people in making money for Essex and for the country. And I guess this whole conversation that we're having today is all about valuing those people, valuing the people that are on the ground doing the work, not the people that have made the policy that might allow them to do the work, the people on the ground doing the stuff. And we don't value them enough, and we don't give them enough credit, and we definitely should empower them with more skills to make their lives better. That's what this is about in my head. But at the moment, we have this way of funding. We spend all our money up front, don't you? And again, I'm sure Matt has this all the time. You apply for funding, you can build a building. That's not too bad to get. So these guys have got funding to give to get themselves a 3-handled stainless steel spade. Probably no problem at all. Have the money to do that. And we're planting a tree with this weird spade, which we probably won't water, and it will probably die. So all the money up front, because all the glamour, then you get the photo, that's it. And then you don't care. And the other thing I'd like I guess it's the potential of people and the potential of green space. I think the two things that are underestimated: the potential of new green space to become really good and really biodiverse and really fantastic is huge. And we've got to get away from this thing of all our nature's in our nature reserves. Here's where all our nature is, in a 50-year-old post-industrial site in Canby, right? Now, was abandoned for 50 years, no design, and it's become that good that quickly, right? Imagine if we designed this. Couldn't we have made it happen in 30 years? Imagine that, because we're clever people, aren't we? We could definitely make that happen. But this is what we underestimate, the potential of new green space, which is the stuff we're going to get on the back of all these developments, aren't we? We're going to have new kind of bland green space that we can do something exciting with. 20% of our best wildlife sites are on places where we've dug a bloody great hole and then left it alone. 20%. And why is that? It's because these places, look at them, they're complicated, they're completely chaotic, they're wonderfully varied. They're not flat, They're not raked flat and they're not all topsoil. They're completely complicated. And we've proved, haven't we, with NEP and all those other places, that we can go from chemically soaked agricultural arable deserts to a functioning, wonderful biodiverse space. And farmland has proved that. Look at this. This is a housing estate that we took over in the year 2000. This is apocalyptic landscapes, you know? Who was it who said in the, I don't know when it would have been, the 80s or 90s, who was the person that said, I know what we'll do. We'll extract the gardeners and the joy from the poorest places in our cities, and that's a great idea. Who made that decision? Who decided that they were going to halve the maintenance budgets for the green space on social housing when these are the most important places to have the best quality landscape? So, you know, we want the best quality gardeners, we want the best budgets in the poorest places. Let the wealthy areas have the shit. Let them have the poor green space. Well, because they can get in their big car and drive to a good bit of green space. You know, these are the places that you want the best people and the best investment. And that's when the joy will come. Here's another great place to create good green space, the top of landfills. We have a lovely selection of landfills in these areas, don't we, in our place? But unfortunately and sadly, when we top these places off, when we come to do the engineering, we cover it in a piece of clay to seal it off, and then in our wisdom, we cover it in topsoil and rake it flat. Or in our case with landfills, a little bit of a dome, because we get a bit more in that way, you know. Look how the potential, this is new green space. When do we ever get that? When do they go and take down, you know, an oldies and put in a new park? It doesn't happen. So this is new green space, huge potential. We just need to be more creative about the way we actually reinstall that. Let's have lots of different substrates in there. Let's have lots of different topography. Let's make it a wonderful place. It has no user group to upset us either, does it? Landfills, they're great places, you know. And on the back of new developments, let's absolutely force developers to make fantastic green space. Instead of, like Gary Grant was telling us, instead of a little sort of pit where the runoff from the housing estate goes, let's make it a genuinely amazing space. There's enough money in development, surely, to be able to make good green space, and more importantly, to be able to look after it and make it exciting. And industrial yards are another place. This is our new yard in Barking, Riverside. And we're setting out to prove you can make industrial areas, you can make money and make ecology without affecting how much money you make. So we're working with portable habitat that you can move around with forklifts. We're working along the boundary, and we're working on roofs. So all those places we're suggesting is you don't lose money, they're not going to get in your way, and you can still create ecology. Here's a very biodiverse place, and it's gardens. Why are gardens so amazing? Like, if you took that piece of landscape and put that into a rural place, that would be the best quality landscape in that rural area, wouldn't it? Because look how complicated it is. And the reason it's so complicated is because it's driven by everyone's different tastes. Isn't that a joy? That's why community gardens are so good, because they're all different people's tastes, and we're just creating more diverse landscapes by introducing people. And we definitely shouldn't be afraid of introducing people into places. Allotments, time and time again, the most biodiverse places, allotments. Why are they so good? And I'd say again, it's because of people's optimism. So they get an allotment, don't they? Oh, and we're going to be self-sufficient for the whole year now. They start off, they cultivate a little bit, the rest goes to shit. So you have disturbed area, undisturbed area, perfect habitat. Then what else do you do? You then build a compost bin, don't you? All allotment people build a compost bin. Incredibly important for biodiversity. And there's been loads of surveys to say compost bins are one of the main drivers of biodiversity in gardens. And then just to make it the perfect place for biodiversity, pretty much everyone builds a really bad shed. So then they introduce the structural elements. And if you go in an old allotment shed, what do? You go in, you've got cobwebs everywhere, there's butterflies hibernating, you've got robins nesting there, you've got foxes nested. underneath. It's packed full of wildlife because it's a structural element, and the structural elements we've sucked out of our public space. Allotments are genius for that. The High Line, I won't go too much into that, apart from to say they spend £700,000 an acre maintaining it. How about that, Basildon Council, for a little budget for your parks? £700,000 an acre. And lo and behold, it's the most popular place in New York. Amazing. So you spent a lot on care and maintenance? It's really popular. Weird. You know? And this is my mate, Ed Snodgrass from Maryland. And just to prove you can make farm, this is a farm, by the way, this picture, this is his farm. So he makes more money out of a 5-acre nursery on his farm growing green roof plants. He makes enough money out of that to 40 years ago. Well, it was rewilding, I suppose, but it wasn't a thing then. And it's absolutely humming. So farmland from nothing, from chemically soaked farmland to good, no problem. And this is our housing estate that I showed you a picture of earlier. That sign on the left just about sums up this, you know, who thought that a sign saying you are entering the area of Clapton Park, who thought that that sort of sign, that sort of, it's the most unwelcoming, most nastiest phrasing, who thought that would actually make any difference? Managed by the Clapton Park Management Organization. Who, you know, like if you walked up to our estate and saw that sign, you'd turn around, wouldn't you, and go back. You'd think you're going to get arrested in there, you know? This sums up what where we don't invest. We take all the money away from this. So we slapped a new sign on top of that sign. We left the old one for good historic reasons, so to see how bad it was. So a sign that happens to say, welcome to our estate. Oh, that's quite easy to do, isn't it? Flowers, hand-drawn map by one of our residents, and a little guide to show you where all the good bits of the estate are, you know. I mean, that's simple, cheap, simple stuff. And if you start to change the contract, so our contract that we signed in 2000 on Clapton Park, it really just said, trim the hedges, cut the grass, poison the weeds. Pretty much that's the broadness of it, right? All the things that we did that were good were not in our contract. And so we need to have maintenance contracts that say, stop, take your ear protection off, talk to residents in the contract, create good publicity for the estate in the contract, understand what people who live there want in the contract. So this is an image of one of our residents, Zainab. This is probably this image I am, in all the things I've done, and people know me for other stuff than this, but this is definitely the best thing I've ever done. Zainab was on her balcony one day. I was down below pushing the mower, you know, like you do on social housing, just mowing more pieces of dog shit everywhere. And I looked down, and on this horrible hybrid tea rectangular rose bed that you get on these places, there was a little line of coriander underneath the roses. And I'm looking down at this thinking, oh, that's genius. Thank God. It was such a relief to see something interesting in this sort of place. And I looked up, and Zainab was on her balcony, and she was looking down at me, looking at her coriander. And she had I didn't understand. She didn't talk much English. I didn't understand Turkish, but I could tell from what her face was saying. She was saying, if you touch that, I'm going to absolutely come down and hammer you. So amazing person. So immediately we took the roses out. We gave her somewhere to grow food. She'd been sitting on that balcony for 20 years, looking down at idiots like me, cutting the grass. So we gave her the space to grow food. She was comfortable in the space. She then baked bread in the space. So this doesn't have any plants on it, but this is good quality grounds maintenance. That's absolutely the best thing I've ever done. The fact that there's an open fire, the fact that she's burning varnish wood, ignore that, because the contract manager, thankfully, didn't give a shit. So she did that for 5 years solid without any issues at all. But that's what green space can do, you know. And these are the little things that we did. Simple, cheap, seeds, labor. So not materials. These things take labor, not materials. Because you stop and talk to people, you realize that the big chunk of our residents loved grapevine leaves to cook dolma. Dolma was a big, big deal, and they didn't have any grapevine leaves. There wasn't any grapevines on the estate, so we planted grapevines up the railings, and we looked after them. Best thing we ever did. £10 for a grapevine and labour. No infrastructure. So let's put the best gardeners into the poorest places. Let's invest in the best people and get them into these places, because that is where we'll make the most difference. And let's not also spend all the money on the parks, because the most important places, I'd say, from our experience, are the small bits of grass that are outside people's houses. They're not necessarily the park, because Zaina didn't go to the park and read a book. She wanted the green space outside her house to be good. And I think they're the bits that never get any funding. They're the bits that we can really make a difference. So to change these places, I would say we've got to get away from this conversation about the plants are the things. You know, you buy a few pollinator plants and you think you've fixed biodiversity. I don't think it's true. I think all the other elements are the important stuff. Complexity, disturbance, structure, soils, topography, and dead stuff. Dead stuff, really important. We should be designing dead stuff into our new landscapes. Here's a place that could become very biodiverse if we actually left it alone for long enough. So this fly tip, if we can get it left alone for long enough and surveyed, I would guarantee that this will be more biodiverse than this easily in a couple of years. Easily, because it's a complicated, wonderfully mad, all those niches, dry, wet, south side, north side, topography, everything is in there. Now, obviously, we don't want that. So we have to tidy that up. So we tidy it up. We tidy fly tips. So we sort of put fly tips in a box, and then that makes people happy. Then they're okay about it. So this has got demolition waste. This has got old soil pipes. It's got all sorts of things going on, and it's in a box. It's tidy. It's in a straight line. Very important to give people the respect to do this, not just dump a load of rubbish outside it. And following on from that, biodiversity net gain has been talked about. It's a really important planning consideration and a great tool for us to use. We've just got to plug some of the holes in it. And one of the holes, I would say, is that we totally underestimate in an urban context the importance of open mosaic habitat, which is in effect complicated places. That's basically what it is. And we need to convince the government that that needs to be way higher on the metric. Because I think that open mosaic habitat is the only way we can deliver. So that brownfield site in Canvey I was talking about, open mosaic habitat, is the only way we can deliver biodiversity quick enough. We can't plant a few trees in a plastic tube and wait for it to be an ancient woodland. We definitely can't. We don't need to be. We should be making it complicated. Open mosaic is the way to go for sure. But at the moment, the metric on biodiversity net gain doesn't value novel landscapes. It doesn't value us saying we're going to make a brownfield landscape, we're going to make an open mosaic landscape from new. That's what we're going to do. It doesn't value this. And if we could get it to value that, that would totally change everything. And I think the perfect open mosaic habitat would be a gardened, intensively gardened, beautiful space. So if you actually go back to that development with that piece of green next to the housing development, garden space, gardened with creative gardeners, people will want to go there. It will be very diverse with plant community, and then you have a semi-natural area around the outside of that. You have the combination, and that's what our place is. Our place is the combination of gardened and less intensively gardened. And I think people would love that. And it would put people back into the net gain loop. So we should have people net gain. You know, you can, if we could value, instead of sending the money for B&G off to some landowner in Yorkshire or Scotland, let's pay for an extra gardener to create beautiful biodiverse places right near where the development is. Let's not give it to the wealthy. Let's keep it within the community and employ someone locally to deliver that. Why don't we do that? Why don't we do that? It's because we're trapped in the net gain being a conservation habitat type rather than a conversation. And we should have an urban context to all this. Because look what it does. You can make open mosaic look beautiful. So Canvey Wick's great for wildlife, but not the most beautiful place, I would suggest. You can make it look beautiful. You could create great local jobs, and you can bring biodiversity close to where people live. Most important. Now, when Peter Massini came to our place recently, he was an amazing guy, very much consults on B&G all the time. He came to our garden and he said my garden would score close to 0 on the biodiversity on the B&G metric, which was I was a bit unhappy about it. And I explained to him that we have over 1,400 species of invertebrates. We've moved from 60 to 180 bee and wasp species in 8 years, directly related to the landscape changes we've made. So we've increased biodiversity by a huge amount. The rest of all around us has been going down. But unfortunately, that is not valued because that's a novel new landscape. It's not within the B&G metric. So we should definitely fix this. And the government's consulting on it as we speak. And I think if we can just persuade them in an urban context, beautiful, biodiverse, creative places are good for wildlife. I mean, there's a community garden on the Wildlife Trust Reserve up at Langdon. I don't know if anyone's ever been to it. The most beautiful, joyful place, stuck in the middle of a bit of a hawthorn scrub that the Wildlife Trust were quite reluctant to let go. They put a community garden in, loads of different gardeners gardening, wacky, mad, non-native plants, loads of different ponds, all sorts of incredible things going on, stuff hanging from trees that kids are going to like, all that joy, and it delivers biodiversity. But we've got this thing in our head that it has to be kind of messy or nature reservey to be good for wildlife. It doesn't. It doesn't. It requires people. So I think the mantra for the metric for biodiversity net gain should be ecological theme park. Got a bit of an Essex feel to it, I'd say. Ecological theme park. And we shouldn't be ashamed to actually do that because we don't have the luxury to mess around with green space without doing that. Thank you.